When structured correctly and funded properly and managed efficiently, an IUL policy can earn average returns between 7 to 10%. In this episode, I'm going to address the question, why do some IUL policies earn far better returns than others? Get ready. I'm going to give you insights into some opportunities that maybe you didn't know existed before. So my name's Doug Andrew. I'm an author, a speaker. I've been a financial strategist now for more than 48 years as a certified speaking professional. And this is from the National Speakers Association. And I realize that I have spoken to audiences of anywhere from 40 to 20,000 now for more than 90,000 hours in my life. And generally people come to my educational events to understand how to optimize their financial assets and minimize taxes, prepare for long-term goals like a comfortable retirement, so they won't outlive their money. But my approach is unique. I focus on 3 dimensions, and hence this channel is called Three-Dimensional Wealth. In this episode, what I want to address is a question that has been asked thousands of times, because if people have heard, especially financial advisors, which I also train, about different kinds of universal life and indexed universal life, people will say, well, how come some IUL policies actually earn better returns than others do? Well, it's actually pretty simple, but unfortunately, I would say the vast majority of insurance policies, even universal life policies, would not qualify to be deemed what I call a laser fund. That's a copy of a book I'm going to give you at the end of this episode. A laser fund is a properly structured and maximum funded indexed universal life that is also managed efficiently to perform at the best rate of return. Here are a few stories where people went to their nephew or their brother-in-law and set up an IUL policy, and they didn't know what they were doing, and it way underperformed. How sad is that? So there's a lot of reasons why an IUL policy may not perform very well, especially if it's designed by somebody who does not know what they're doing. What is so sad is sometimes at our events or on my radio show, I have a national radio show for 13 running years now. And I will say things like, well, another 7.5 years and most people have doubled their cash values inside of their indexed universal life policies because maybe they've been averaging 9.6%, which is the average, which means your money will double every 7.5 years. So people who had $500,000, it doubled to $1 million in the previous 7.5 years. But there are people who had $500,000 in their universal life policies, and they call me up or they come up and say, Doug, I put $500,000 in, or I had $500,000 in there, and now I only have $250,000. What do you mean it should have doubled to $1 million? Where's my other $750,000 on this policy? And I go, well, I didn't set it up. Let me take a look at it. It takes me about 30 seconds. I open it up and I go, who designed this? Well, I heard about this and I read one of your books, but I went to my nephew because he has an insurance license, or I went to my brother-in-law and I go, oh dear, that was an expensive relationship. They had no clue what they were doing under TEFRA and DEFRA tax citations. I'm sure they were happy to accommodate you, but they had no clue how to design this. They had way more insurance than what was necessary to accommodate the amount of money you wanted to set aside to optimize your rate of return. That was an expensive mistake. It's hard for me to correct that, but I can start them off from that day forward, but I can't make up for the mistake their brother-in-law or their nephew made. So you have to structure it correctly and fund it properly. Now, of course, you can choose the wrong company. There's probably over 200 insurance companies that offer universal life or indexed universal life. I would not put a dime in 95% of them because I know certain companies design their products better, so that it's for your benefit and not for their benefit to build up their company coffers or whatever, okay? And so you want to choose the right company. There's usually only about a half a dozen companies that I would put my money into. And then with those companies, you want to choose the right product, because some companies might have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different universal life products or indexed universal life. I would make sure you choose the right one, and usually there's only 1 or 2 that perform the best based upon your objectives, whether it's short term or long term. So yeah, you got to choose the right company. There's only about a half a dozen I would choose. And you got to choose the right product. Right now, there's only 3 or 4 that I would put my serious cash into. But again, sometimes people come and they find out the company or the 2 or 3 companies that I put my money in or that I would recommend. And then they find out the actual products. And then they go to their brother-in-law or their nephew and say, can you set this up? But they do it wrong. So I would say the number one reason why it does not earn the ultimate best efficient rate of return is because the advisor was not proficient. So if this is intriguing you, I'm going to explain what you need to make sure they understand so that it doesn't cost you unnecessary rates of return. But before doing so, if this is intriguing you, and you can think of somebody who needs to watch this episode, be sure and share this video, post a comment, click like. But subscribe to this 3-Dimensional Wealth channel. And when you do, click that little bell so you'll be notified every time I post a new episode, which I do almost on a daily basis. It's free when you subscribe. But stay with me to the end, because I want to gift you a copy of my most recent best-selling book, The Laser Fund. Don't pay $20 retail. I'll gift you a copy. So let's talk about what happens if an agent, even though they have a license, does not know what they're doing. They're not proficient. In fact, from 2003 to 2007, I actually had about 3,000 licensed agents, and it included some CPAs and tax attorneys, came through a 3-day intensive workshop. They paid $6,000 in tuition to come and learn. I heard from my publisher at the time, Time Warner, that over 50,000 advisors were buying my books in bulk by the case, and they were passing them out like loose cannons, and they were selling a bunch of life insurance, but they were not structuring them correctly. They were loose cannons. Even among the 3,000 I trained, those that didn't use it, they lose it. And so in 2008, when the market dropped 40% for the second time in a decade, people who had money in universal life policies funded correctly, okay, and designed right, they didn't lose a dime in 2008. They may not have made very much, but they didn't lose. They're like, go, go. And then the first 90 days of 2009, they locked in gains of 16% after not losing a penny. Most Americans, they lost money. It took 4 years until 2012 to make back what they lost. Many of our clients using properly structured indexed universal life had ended up with double their money by 2012. Well, what's the difference? See, if you don't use it, you lose it. And so I created a proficiency exam. It's not an easy exam. It's 100 questions, multiple choice and true and false, but there's also 30 essay questions. Would you believe that over 70% of licensed insurance agents wouldn't even score 30% on that exam? They would royally flunk that exam. You get some of the advisors that are on TV and CNBC and all of those, they wouldn't even understand 70% of the questions. But it amazes me if you do not understand it, you'll structure it wrong. When you structure it with the least amount of insurance you can get away with under TEF and DEF or tax citations, and you put in the most the IRS allows under the TAMRA tax citation, it turns into a tax-free cash cow, earning the best internal rate of return possible as soon as you are able. Meaning that as you get the maximum funded amount in, and if you were earning, 9.6%, let's say, as your money doubles every 7.5 years and you get it in there, the rate of return, the cost of insurance will get cheaper as you get older. If you don't understand that, search episodes on this channel that explain how universal life actually gets cheaper as you get older. if it's structured properly. And so your rate of return gets better. So I often say on a universal life policy, if you were to average 9.6, you should net 8.6 over the life of the policy. If you earn 11, you'll net 10 like I have. Some years, if you earn 25, you'll net 24. And like this year that I'm recording this episode, 2021, we had many clients lock in gains of 61.33%. That means they're netting 60%. Well, folks, that means the cost of the insurance is only draining out 1 percentage point, and so you're getting the best net internal rate of return. But if it's not designed correctly, you could be earning 11 and only netting 6 or 7 because the cost of insurance was greater than it needed to be if you structured it correctly. And so you want the best rate of return. I want an internal rate of return within 1% of the gross rate of return as soon as possible. You do that by doing 2 things. You fund it as fast as you are able in compliance with the TAMRA tax citation. Usually it takes 3 years and 1 day or 4 years and 1 day to get it maximum funded, and then it will start performing better and better. And then you want to tweak it. You make sure you have the least amount of insurance and you have the insurance qualify as part of the death benefit. And as you get older, the insurance becomes cheaper. To where in 15 years, many of our clients, the amount of insurance that they're being charged for is maybe 1/10 what it was when they started. By the 20th year, it might be 1/20th of what it was originally, meaning that now if you're earning 11% in that year, you're netting 10.9. But over the entire life of a universal life policy, you want it structured so that you'll usually earn within about 1 percentage point of the gross rate of return. If it earns 8, you'll net 7. If it earns 11, you'll net 10. And that's why some perform better than others do, which makes a big difference in the long haul. So before I show you how to get your free copy of the Laser Fund, I mentioned efficient management. See, the IUL agents that I oversee and train, they learn how to meet with their clients at least annually to take advantage of certain opportunities, like in the year 2021. See, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, the market dropped about 30% in March of 2020. That's when many of our IUL agents told their clients to link to an index with no cap, okay, 1 year point to point. And in 1 year, many of them locked in gains of 61.33%. We had a client with $850,000 in March of 2020. Without adding a dime, that grew to $1,380,000 a year later in March of 2021. That also means that if the market crashed, they would not lose 1 dime of that $1,380,000 the next year. They may not earn anything, but they won't lose what they made. That is what I mean by efficient management. You want to manage or rebalance. To learn more about this, I want to gift you a copy of this book, The Laser Fund. This has been flying off of our warehouse shelves. Don't miss out. Claim your free copy. It's 300 pages. It retails for $20. But if you go to laserfund.com, laserfund.com, or click on the link below, you contribute a nominal amount towards the shipping and handling. Have some skin in the game. I will cover the rest of that cost and I will pay for the book. I'll fire out a hard copy to you. It's 300 pages, 2 books in one, this one and this one, right brain, left brain. But here's the deal. When you're in there, there's options there to also listen and learn, watch and learn. Check out the RBD, Retire by Design event, which we teach live about once a month, or virtually. And if you subscribe to the channel, this is usually free for you. So make sure you seize that opportunity if you want to go into a deep dive and take ownership of your brighter future.